The first time that I did this type of video, I was absolutely terrified. And a part of me still is, but doing that video helped me to gain a lot more strength than I knew that I had at that time. I knew that there would be people that would misunderstand, romanticize, or frame their own opinion. But it was me trying to find meaning from something that was horrific in my life, a silver lining, basically asking myself, did I learn something that I can take with me that potentially I can grasp some kind of meaning? And I did. But this time, this video, it will not be the same, because I carry a weight that no amount of running can shake, no amount of burying, nothing I can do. It follows me, it taps on my shoulder, it will never ever leave. I have invisible chains that whisper, that live in my mind. They live in silence. And I've learned throughout what I've been through a lot about power, because people think power is strength and command, but power is older than language, and it lives in every species, every system, everything that we touch. It's like a quiet hum, right? It decides sometimes I can breathe easier than you. Power doesn't always shout, sometimes it whispers, you belong to me. And it's not always a weapon or a fist. Sometimes power is just staying silent, the contract you didn't read, the look that says, don't ruin this for me. Power wears many masks, and it can wear a suit, a badge, a camera, a smile. Sometimes it pays cash, sometimes it pretends it's love. And I've seen what happens when a man is given too much of it, when his hunger outweighs his humanity, when control becomes his religion. There's a kind of power that only exists in the dark, in rooms where names don't matter, where girls are just profiles and prices, and men gather in secret to rate them like they're leaving a Yelp review for a meal. They talk in codes, they boast, they finally have a place where they feel important. The kind of importance they don't get from their wives, their bosses, their own reflection. Power gives them permission. It tells them you can be the monster here and still call yourself a man. And they believe it. They pay to take the mask off, to feed the part of themselves that wants to dominate, control, and possess. They post the reviews. They brag about how obedient she was, how good, how tight. They call each other by their usernames, a brotherhood of faceless men high-fiving through a screen. They think it's freedom, but I would say it's cowardice dressed as power. Because real power doesn't need to hide. Real power doesn't destroy to feel alive. The buyer hidden behind society, behind autonomy, behind the screen, they can ignore the signs of a woman or a man who is controlled. They can take what they want without consequence. And they can show. They show it. Finally, the buyer has a place where they are king or queen, because there are women involved in this too, where they can do the things a wife, a husband, a girlfriend, a normal woman or man wouldn't. They pay for it, they perform it, they share it. Power is not just in the act, it is in the audience. The men that boast about their time that they bought, celebrating what they cannot achieve in the daylight. Imagine this, a secret kingdom built on stolen moments, on shame, on control. A man finally allowed to feel like a dirty person while the world outside sees nothing. And the woman will carry the scars, the flashbacks, the loss of intimacy that can never be repaid. Power is seductive. It is secret. Power can be hidden until it touches you. When I was being, there was a time where I was being tied up by rope, and I did not know this person. I was terrified. I thought that this might be one of those movies where I'm going to get unalived. Even now, though, if I try to re-perform that, I get flashbacks, like a reel playing behind my eyes. My body sometimes is trembled or I cry. Sometimes the other part of me can take over in intimate moments, the one I had to survive, to create just to survive. Kind of like a shadow self, the one who learned how to perform, how to disappear inside of herself. So no one could tell the difference between consent and compliance. For a long time, I didn't know what it meant to make love. I only knew what it meant to survive. And after it was over, after I was no longer chained to someone else's control, after I escaped, I still couldn't stop. I sold myself. I told myself, at least this time, it's my choice. But it wasn't power, it was a haunting. I became my own abuser. The very thing I once hated, because it felt so familiar, because it felt safe. And maybe that's the saddest part of all. That when someone steals enough from you, you start to do their work for them. You wear their mask, you learn their tricks, and you destroy yourself so no one else gets to do it ever again. That's the illusion of power. And it's one of the darkest truths that I've had to face. If you've seen the movie The Menu, there's a moment when the chef asked why no one tried to leave. He was laughing about it. Why no one fought back? Because comfort is powerful. Being complacent is powerful. And we all have something we don't fight, right? But we still scroll, we still stay, we still consume what numbs us. That's what power looks like in this world. Not violence, but quiet control. Domesticated obedience. You see, we forget we're all being trained to obey something. Power for them is anesthesia, a drug that dulls the ache of insignificance. He's not paying for sex. He is paying for silence, for control without consequence, for the fantasy that he is in charge. Even when his life feels meaningless, he buys what he cannot feel. He rents the illusion of being wanted, because being known would destroy him. Does he believe dominance makes him more real? Maybe it's the only time that he feels visible. He mistakes control for validation. And if power is control, why must we pay for it? Because deep down he knows it's not real. The buyer knows it's not real. Real power doesn't need a victim. Power fascinates them though, because they've never truly felt any. You see, for the one selling the people, they were small, broken, and they learned early that if they make someone else tremble, they could pretend that they are now safe. They build empires out of fear. They don't lead, they orchestrate obedience. Every rule, every threat, every choice they offer is a mirror of their own weakness. You see, the one who traffics is the worst. The trafficker's favorite trick isn't the chain, it's doubt. They rewrite your thoughts until you no longer trust your own voice. They call that control, but it's just terror wearing confidence. They call it the game as if it's strategy, but the truth is they could never survive outside of it. They could never do what they are having other people do. Without victims, they have no identity. They can't create, so they consume. They can't love, so they trade. They can't be powerful, so they counterfeit it. With intimidation and manipulation and the breaking of people who still had to fight, who still had light left in them. Every trafficker lives by a single lie, that owning another person will make them whole. But control never fills the hole, it feeds it. They're addicts, not kings. They get high on submission, and like every addict, they need a bigger dose. They call themselves businessmen, hustlers, protectors, mentors, but behind every title is the same truth. They are terrified of their own irrelevance. So they cage others to avoid facing emptiness. What they sell isn't sex. It's the illusion that they matter. And the day their victims walk free, sometimes the mirror shatters and the trafficker sees what he's always been, a small, frightened boy hiding behind a monster costume. And you want to know why this still continues? Because people can accept that the monsters don't just hide in shadows. They wear suits, they run charities, and smile on camera. And you walk past probably one of them every day if you live inside of a city. They know how to look like saviors while they destroy lives. And the scariest part, we keep giving them our attention, our votes, our trust. We keep letting them represent. You see, what I see right now, I know there is another kind of power, that can't be bought, stolen, or raided. The power, look, there's a power of walking away, a power of speaking when the world expects your silence. It begins small, a refusal to obey, a whisper of control, a breath taken when all you want is to disappear, a memory that tells you I am more than what was done to me. And then it grows. The chains that were invisible start to loosen. The shadow self, the part that learned to perform to survive, becomes a witness, not a master. You start to reclaim the parts of yourself they tried to erase. The body they owned in their imagination, the mind they tried to rewrite, the voice they tried to silence. It's terrifying because freedom isn't just leaving the room, it's leaving the prison that was built inside of you. And that's harder than anything they ever made you do. You realize the same force that broke you can also rebuild you. Your fear can become your courage, your trauma can become your story, and your silence can become a weapon. And when you find your voice, you speak not to hurt, not to shame, but to illuminate, to make people understand that survival isn't a quiet victory. It's a roar, a refusal to be erased. Escape is not a single act. It's 1,000 little acts. A no whispered when everyone expects obedience. A door closed when they demand it open. A moment of stillness when fear tells you to run the other way. And when you finally step out, not just from the trafficker, but from the fear, the shame, the internalized lies, the dark, dark parts of you, you find something extraordinary. You are still you, undiminished, even though they tried to carve you into their shape. You remain. There is power in knowing that you can become more than the people who tried to break you. And the world may still be cruel. Buyers will still exist, traffickers will still thrive. But your light is untouchable and your voice is undeniable. Your story is yours, and that is a kind of power that no one can take. Power doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it restores, sometimes it heals, sometimes it reminds the world that even in the darkest moments, some of us can rise. And I have not always been perfect, and I do not claim to be, but this is my truth of what I have experienced. And I caution people that sometimes when we think, I fear what I am seeing now with the Epstein situation. I see so much of why that world still exists, because we have all these people and all these connections and all these clients right there. You can see who is connected, and still people refuse. They refuse. And when some people have asked me in my comment, why didn't you leave? Why didn't anybody do anything about it? Why this? Why that? It amazes me that the same people that are asking that question defend people that are literally connected. It is right there, you guys. It is right there in front of you. Please believe me. It is right there. All those people connected to Epstein absolutely have something to do with it. You just, please believe me when I say this. It allegedly, they have something to do with it. From the world that I have lived, I am telling you, the people that we know or believe are a part of this. And if we still continue to support them just because we like their policies or what they did in the past or what Clinton or whoever did, how are we any better than the people that are doing how are we any better? Please hear me when I say this. The most charming people, the most powerful people are normally the ones that are doing the darkest stuff behind closed doors.